Hello, I'm Maria Bartiromo. In 1995, I became the first person to report live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's hard to imagine that just a generation ago, most women worked in the home. The majority of the paid workforce was male. They retired with a company pension, and that was all they needed for a secure retirement. Well, times have certainly changed, and one of the most dramatic changes is the number of women working outside the home. This includes 2/3 of all mothers. But when it comes to earning power, the playing field for women is far from level. The fact is that women earn less than men. 90% of us, that means almost all of us, will be solely responsible for managing the family finances at some point in our lives. In this half hour, we hear women's stories from first job to retirement with tips from financial experts about managing your money along the way.
My biggest shock about living on my own was that everything costs money. Everything that you buy, everything that you want, you have to pay for.
Our story begins with 4 young women living on their own for the first time and entering the workforce as full-time employees.
My name is Lindsay, and I'm 26 years old, and I live in New York City. I never thought much about my finances and didn't save at all, and now that I'm on my own, I'm finally starting to think about it, but I'm definitely a beginner on the finance side of things. With 1 credit card and a bank account, and just starting a 401k this month.
Hi, my name is Michelle Campbell. I'm 26 years old. I'm a receptionist. In my job search, benefits were a major factor. When I was younger, I didn't realize how important benefits were. But as I've gotten older and matured, I realized that is really within first and second thing that you're looking at when you're looking for a job.
My name is Laura. I live in New York City. I'm 26 years old and I work in finance. I learned from my mother's mistakes. She divorced my father when I was in college. She was in a tough position and she wanted to make sure that her daughters didn't go through the same thing that she's going through when she was 50 years old. I probably would be investing regardless of what happened with my parents, but I don't think I would have been as aggressive about it. I literally started investing my first week of work.
The biggest surprise was the first time I didn't pay off my credit card. I had just moved into my apartment and I bought a lot of furniture and things, so I thought I'll just leave a couple $100 on my credit card. And then I had a $45 extra fee, and I had taken more than 10 transactions on my ATM card, and that was a $25 fee, and I had something had happened with a check that was a $10 late fee, and all of these things didn't fit into the careful budget I had done, and that was a very big shock.
I think the biggest shock I had was April 15th, taxes. I didn't really account for taxes and I had not taken the appropriate deduction on my paycheck. So when tax season came around and I was going through all the forms, I was certain that I made a mistake because I owed the government a lot of money.
One of the biggest problems that people face in handling their money is the question of debt. When is it acceptable? When is it not acceptable? I would certainly agree that there are times when debt is perfectly acceptable. When you buy a house, nobody's going to expect you to plunk down $225,000 in cold, hard dollar bills to buy your house.
I think when you're 18, you get a credit card, or even 17 these days, and you just go crazy with it. Shopping, 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 and you don't really think about, okay, I have to pay this back. You know, it's like, oh, you think it's free money. And now I know, okay, well, if I don't have the money, I'm not putting it on the plastic. If I don't have it, I'm not going to do it.
Once you get past those basic kinds of things, money that you borrow in order to make a living, which would, I guess, include money that you borrow in order to go to college or to take a graduate course. Once you get past that, I think you should be very careful. In my opinion, you're better off living in a living room without a couch for 6 months until you save the money to buy the couch. And I certainly would suggest that it is not a wise thing to do to borrow money to spend on things that don't last.
I read an article once that said that the best way to figure out what your needs and wants are and where you're really spending is to write down every penny you spend for a week. So I did that and realized, not surprisingly, in New York, that all of my money was going to food and entertainment. And so I started doing small things because I realized that I wouldn't give up going to the movies or going out to dinner or buying magazines. But I realized that if I bought Vanity Fair every month, it was $4. And if I subscribed for a year, it was $12 for the year. And if I bought Milk Duds before I went to the movie theater, it was 95 cents. And if I bought it in the theater, it was $3.75.
My name is Samara. I'm 23 years old. I work for the city helping people make the transition from welfare to work. I'm not able to save money in my job. I'm just trying to kind of get by at this point. I knew going into the social service field that that wasn't going to be an option for me at this age, and it's more important for me to be doing community service, so I love what I do.
I took a course in economic literacy, and it really, I believe, changed my life. It showed me how to budget, set goals, and paying off your debt, which feels really good.
So when you're just starting out, remember, begin now, saving for the future. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, for every 10 years you delay before starting to save, you will need 3 times as much each month to catch up. Know the difference between real needs and wants. Learn about the benefits offered by your employer. And take advantage of employee training courses.
If you're committed and you're dedicated, go ahead and do it. Don't be afraid of it.
Do you have that entrepreneurial spirit? 2 out of every 3 new businesses are started by women. With all the financial demands that come with owning your own business, don't sacrifice personal savings. Meet Victoria Mullen, a 35-year-old small business owner.
My company creates architectural etched glass. We've been in business for over 10 years. I wanted my own business. That was something that I thought was part of achieving the American dream, and I felt that I could do it. I took a small loan to purchase the equipment and to learn how to use the equipment, develop some technique, and start up my own facility. We have a very respectable position in the marketplace, and we are respected for our workmanship and our quality, and I feel very good about that. I find it difficult to save on a regular basis. Most of my savings comes in at the end of the year when we take profits. But the hardest thing to deal with in business is the fluctuations and the uncertainty of not knowing what next month will be like or the month after that. Now, 10 years into it, I have a feel for what the busy season is and what the slow season is. I recognize those swings, but when it first happened, you can imagine how terrifying it was. In around 4th or 5th grade, I wanted to be a scientist. I had my little microscope. But then I started having difficulty in math, and I actually had a teacher tell me that if fractions were too hard for me, that I didn't have to do them. And as a result, I never did. So by the time I got to high school, I didn't have the math skills that were necessary for me to take the science courses that I wanted to take. So now in going back to school with greater confidence, I have been very successful in those very same math classes. The advice I have for women is certainly don't be afraid to go into business. Absolutely, absolutely not. If you have an idea, plan it out, stick to it. Don't let anyone tell you that it can't be done. I have a very clear recollection of feeling so empowered and so focused and so absolutely elated that I had made this decision and actually was now implementing it, that I could see it on the horizon. I was doing it. It was going to happen, and that was a marvelous feeling.
Women-owned businesses are the fastest growing segment of the economy. And as we just saw, owning a business can be a rewarding experience. So women entrepreneurs, develop a business plan and track it. Play it safe with your financial well-being and don't sacrifice health insurance. Initiate a savings plan and invest in an IRA.
When you're married, as opposed to being single, you have to take into consideration somebody else's spending and spending habits.
In today's society, there are many different ways to build a family. And when you live with someone else, there are often competing financial needs. Even though dual earner families are the norm, who manages the money? Who pays the bills? Who saves for the future? Meet Michelle Barrett. She remembers the financial challenges of becoming a couple.
When you're, living with somebody else, you have to take into consideration, okay, what do they need money for? And will they go to the bank and not tell me so that I can't balance the checkbook properly? But we maintain very good communication, my husband and I. And so I'm able to sort of keep things running smoothly.
When you're perhaps part of a couple or thinking about getting married or living with someone, I think the most important thing is not to give up your financial independence and the responsibility for yourself. You should continue to accumulate retirement savings in your own name. You should be sure, most of all, that you know about what's going on with the couple's money.
The most recent crises that we had was my husband was involved in a car accident, and as a result of that, he was out of work for about 6 months. And so I said, well, look, we've got X amount of money. It will tide us over for 2 or 3 months. Even if we get a little bit backed up on the utilities, we'll be fine for our mortgage. And it worked out. He got another job, and we generally live below our means, just as a rule.
It's hard work for today's families to successfully manage their money, and for single moms, the task can present a bigger challenge. That's why getting money management skills can help you get control of your life.
My name is Imogene DeShazier. I'm a single mom of 3. I'm a clerical worker, office manager, administrative assistant. I really had no knowledge about finances before I took the money management class. The class totally turned my life around. I like to use the word empowered. It empowered me, just in life in general.
I grew up in a family where we managed money as a group together because we all worked on the farm together, and so we all managed. We had checkbooks when we were 12 years old. And if we didn't keep them, if we had an overdraft, my father instructed the bank to handle it, and then we got a letter from him. My father has a 4th grade education. When you get a letter from him, you know you're in trouble. You just start out being sorry. Everybody's managing money. Some of them are not doing it in ways that meet their own goals. So we've built a class that teaches them to use their own information. That's why they track their expenses first. That's why we start from there.
Before I took the class, my habits were very erratic. I had no savings, had never saved. Now I have rental insurance, I have disability insurance, I have auto insurance, and I have all these insurances on my kid, life, on my children, and on me. A fear that I had was payday, because on payday I had to make decisions. I knew that I wouldn't have enough money to do everything that I needed to do, but I knew payday was coming. And most of the time what I'd do, if I didn't have enough money to pay everything, I wouldn't pay anything. I'd just pay the deadlines. That's all I would do. And I love to shop, so I'd go shopping. A basic irresponsibility. I'd always find an excuse not to cook dinner. By the time I pick up the kids, it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I had to help my daughter with her homework. The baby's sleepy. I had to comb her hair. Something not to cook dinner, so I could have an excuse to go to the fast food restaurants. Well, I learned how to fix 2 meals, so I could do leftovers.
My name is Fran Pastore. I'm 39 years old. I am a single mother of 2 small girls. I am the executive director of a nonprofit that I co-founded about 2.5 years ago. I grew up in New York City with a blue-collar family. My dad was a taxi driver. I always knew from the time I was little that I wanted to go to college, even though no one in my family went to school. My mom is the youngest of 16 brothers and sisters, and nobody ever went to college. And so I paid for my education. I took out loans. I got grants. I got married when I was 23. I had a lot of pressure from my family, a lot of pressure from my mother and her sisters. While I was married, I had no relationship with the finances in the household. I completely deferred to him. We had everything we needed. I had more than I ever had in my life, but I didn't write checks. I didn't pay the bills. I didn't invest the money. I had no idea what was going on. I wished that prior to the divorce I had had a better understanding of money and wished that I had participated. I know that some men in marriages do not want their wives to have any knowledge. No, he begged me to be active and help and participate. This is the first year that I have been able to not scramble really like at the end of a month. This is the first year that I'm able to keep myself together. I do live within my budget, and I'm just starting to save money. Now, it's a catch-22 as a single parent. I could probably leave this organization and go work in the city around the clock and make a lot more money and pay for a full-time nanny to live in my house with my kids. But I know for me right now that I want to be available to my kids, and that's why I'm doing what I do. And I know that most of the women I work with want to be available to their families.
In deciding whether it's financially worthwhile for you to work or not, you should take a very broad look. For example, you may not bring home net very much after you pay child care, but you're keeping your hand in. If you stop working completely for 5 or 6 years when you have young children, depending on your field, you may not be able to go back.
So family finances can be tricky. For many mothers, the decision to work can be a catch-22. Do you work fewer hours for less pay in order to be available to your children? This can have long-term consequences. It directly affects the amount of pension or Social Security you will receive. In order to be smart about money, make sure you have at least 3 months of take-home pay in a family emergency fund. Get your family debt under control. Be familiar with all the family assets, bank accounts, and investments. Without a solid financial savings plan, unexpected life circumstances such as divorce, disability, or death of a spouse can easily throw a woman into insurmountable debt.
We didn't set aside for this. I thought I would be married forever.
Meet Barbara Blakesley, a mother of 4, who recently filed for divorce. After 18 years, she has re-entered the workforce and is beginning to manage her own money.
I married when I was 22 and was fulfilling my lifelong dream of wanting to be a wife and a mother. I have 4 children ranging in ages from 8 to 17, and I just last week served my husband with papers after about a 6-month separation where we went through counseling, just really trying to make sure that we were making the right decision.
Divorce is not fair. Divorce is an uphill battle. It's fought in an arena that you don't understand. It's fought for a prize that can't possibly be enough because at best it's only going to be half of what you had before. You're going to be using money that you don't really have. None of us get married and say, hey honey, let's put money every month into a divorce kitty, and then if we decide to get a divorce, we'll have the money available. No, it's money that you are planning to use for retirement, for a kid's education, money you're borrowing from your mom and other family members. It's money that you don't really have. And in the end, divorce is going to take longer than you ever imagined. So the moral of that story is don't hold out for what's fair. Get what you can, cut the process short. Divorce is not about the law at all. Divorce is about 3 things. It's about family, it's about emotion, and it's about money.
Budgeting finances are very horrible for me, and especially now going through the divorce, we've accumulated more debt. Unfortunately, when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money, and being married to someone who is very financially stable, I tended to spend a little bit more than we made. So it really has put us in a tough situation right now.
Don't wait for a crisis to become familiar with the family finances. Collect and copy all family financial documents. Know your spousal rights to your husband's benefit plans. And become familiar with your state's divorce laws.
I didn't have any savings, so to speak. I had a little money for the unexpected, but nothing really serious.
About 58 million Americans live with some form of heart disease. The risk of stroke for African American women is 4 times greater than for white women. When Eugenia Williams became disabled by a stroke, she was forced to deal with sudden and unexpected health care costs. After taking a money management course, Eugenia has her personal finances back on track.
I'm a person with a disability, and I knew about you should have a 3-month supply of savings just in case things go wrong, but I was nowhere near that. And so once going through the program and realizing how to track your money, I realized there's a lot of money, even when you don't make a lot of money, where you can actually do something with the money that you have. But having had the illness that I had, the stroke that I had several years ago, I'm persistent. That's one thing I am. And I don't allow someone else's concept of what they think I should be, just because I'm not making the same amount of money that they're making. It certainly doesn't mean that I'm any less. Poor is a state of mind. You can be in poverty and live well below poverty, but being poor is how you act.
When the unexpected hits, it helps to be financially prepared. Buy disability insurance, which covers workers of all ages. Make sure you have an emergency fund. It makes a dramatic difference when the unexpected happens. Take advantage of job training opportunities.
When my husband died, there was a bit of money left, which I had invested when I found that he was sick.
Almost all of the women watching this show today will outlive their spouse. A third of women who become widowed are younger than 60. That means that some of us can expect to live for almost 25 years on our own. Phyllis Prince takes the time she needs to learn all the facts.
The reason I'm going to the course this evening in financial management is because I want to learn. I'm always open to learning, and I think that's a very important thing in a woman's life, and I think perhaps more so in a woman than even a man, because a woman may subsequently have to take care of herself.
A newly widowed woman faces problems that are unique. For the first time in her life, and I'd like to add probably for the last time in her life, she may have what seems like a huge sum of money in her hands. The money from the insurance policies, the retirement savings from her husband's position. And there's a terrible temptation to give it away. Her children have been so nice to her. What's it going to matter in the long run, she's saying, if I give $10,000 to each one of them? Don't do it. Remember that this lump sum of money that you've laid your hands on now has got to be enough to last for the rest of your life. So be very careful with making any big gifts when you first are widowed.
I learn about financial things other than going to a course through the newspaper, through speaking to friends, and generally being interested. Best things I've done in my life financially are, I went to work. I watched people who were successful. I talked to people, I read, I listened, and of course I studied. I took an MBA and I studied so that I was prepared for, the financial aspects of life. I want to be assured that I have enough money to take care of myself, to be able to do the things I want to do, and to be able to even help others when they need my help. So that I want to have a comfortable feeling of being okay.
Life can take unexpected turns, so be prepared. Go slowly in making money decisions. Secure your pension and benefits, and learn where to go for advice, and if necessary, seek professional advice.
There was no way that Social Security alone, and even a pension in combination with Social Security, would take care of all our needs if we wanted to continue the lifestyle that you kind of get used to.
Over the course of a woman's lifetime, we need to continually think about funding our retirement years. Since the average length of retirement is 18 years, make your plan like the legs of a three-legged stool. One leg is Social Security money, the second leg is pension, and the third leg is personal savings. It's very difficult to keep our balance without all three legs: Social Security, pension, and personal savings. Meet Jeanette Phillips, who plans to retire in 2 years.
I'm Jeanette. I'm 60 years old, and I'm a social services administrator. My mother really instilled a work ethic from a very early age. She and my stepfather worked very regularly and hard and always included in their budget a portion for saving. We lived in one room for several years. They saved their money and ultimately were able to put a down payment on a home. And boy, did I find that exciting. And it also pointed out the value of saving. I met my husband in Toledo, Ohio in junior high school on the stage during a math contest. We meet at least once a year, usually twice a year, with our financial planner who comes to our home, sits down with us, goes over with us what it is we have done to date, how well we have done in relation to what we had hoped to do. And then we make adjustments based on the advice that she gives us. My personal retirement plan now is that I will retire at age 62. My retirement income will come from 25% pension, 25% annuities, IRAs, and 25% Social Security.
Social Security is a really important program for women. It's the most important program because there's a majority of women that rely on Social Security for nearly half of their retirement income. Look for a job with a pension plan. That's the best thing to do, because otherwise you're not having to just save as part of that three-legged stool, the Social Security, the pension, and the personal savings. You're going to have to make up for not having a pension, so you have to save twice as much. And that's pretty difficult for anyone to do.
At every age and every circumstance, have a plan. Pay attention to your money and be proactive. Your financial security depends on it. I'm Maria Bartiromo. Thanks for being with us.
Women earn only 72 cents for every dollar a man earns. That means there's a pay gap of 28 cents per dollar. And taken over a lifetime, it means that the average young woman today will make $550,000 less than the average young man today over an entire lifetime.
One of the issues that women often have, and it is somewhat unique to women, is being paralyzed by information. We tend to want to gather so much information and want to have all the answers perfectly, so we tend not to do anything as a result. Procrastination is one of the biggest detriments to building wealth.
Of course you could manage your money. You're not made differently. There's no chromosome in a woman that makes her unable to handle investment or unable to do mathematics or unable to figure out whether a term life insurance policy is better than a whole life policy. Go out and learn just the way you learn everything else.